Welcome everybody to Grumpy Old Men for a brand new week, and we're using some new technology today. How are you with new technology?
Terrible. I hate everything new.
So, look, it's great to have you with us, and we're out here in the garden on a pleasant afternoon. We've got bright sunshine ahead of us, and it's a very interesting day because there is absolutely no traffic along the beach road.
None.
So I went up to the main town today. We're in Thai Muang, in Phang in Thailand, and they're holding their vegetarian festival, and they're setting up for a big do tonight. It's all going to be happening up there.
Yeah.
But they've actually closed off the road that leads down to the beach, so nobody's down here today.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. I was up in the town yesterday, and one of our mutual friends, Fluke, who owns the coffee shop, he had a visit from a great big Chinese dragon. So I'm showing that video while we're talking about it.
Oh, great.
And the Chinese dragon visiting your shop is a very sort of important part of life here.
I imagine it is. I don't know the background of that, except that everybody here traces their ancestry to 703 Chinese guys who got off a boat 175 years ago, including Fluke and his family. Fluke was educated in Taiwan in a Chinese curriculum as a master's degree in marketing, and brought that knowledge back here to Thai Muang and has a number of businesses on the main street. He's a very happening, go-getter kind of guy, very modern guy. Travels all over the world. He's got pictures on Facebook of him in Antarctica and Europe and America and everywhere else. But at the same time, he will get on his knees in the street to the Chinese dragon, to the little boys carrying a papier-mâché dragon head. And it's all very serious and important.
It's interesting because I was at the shop when the dragon arrived and rushed out to get some video, and it was really interesting watching Fluke, who, as you said, highly educated, nice guy, speaks good English. And after it was all over, and it went on for about 10 minutes, and had people berating him, and the Ma Song was shaking his head, and Fluke was just down there on his knees, sort of saying, "Is this going to be over soon?" And I spoke to him after and said, how do you sort of, marry the modern world and all your businesses and your education against these sort of really ancient rituals? And he went, well, I'm just part of the town. It's what I do.
Yeah.
So,
I have cousins in New Jersey who wear yarmulke whenever they leave the house. They cover their head, as Jews have been doing for at least 5,000 years. And they drive cars, and they have Facebook pages, and they do their banking on their phone, on apps, and they're perfectly modern people. But they wear garments, and they cut their hair in ways that are prescribed by laws 5,000 years old. So it's, people cling, and at the same time we advance. So.
Now, you've had a bit of a rough... We've actually both had rough weeks, but in quite different ways.
Yeah.
But as your cup says, life is better with a good coffee.
It's just water. I thought he'd make me a little coffee, but no, it's just water.
Well, it's sort of clear coffee without any coffee in it. That new Pepsi drink, clear coffee.
This is proto-coffee. You add beans and it becomes coffee.
Yeah.
Beans and heat.
We're growing the beans behind you. Look like the Triffids are about to sort of engulf us here.
Day of the Triffids. Yeah.
That was a good book.
I don't think is that Wyndham? John Wyndham?
John Wyndham.
Yeah.
It had 3 or 4 books that I really enjoyed, and I was living in New Zealand at the time. And as I was reading them, I was going through my, creatively fertile stage, and I was just imagining all the issues in the books all happening around the little town I was living in the middle of the North Island of New Zealand. Ever been to New Zealand?
No.
Beautiful country.
I've never been anywhere except Thailand.
Thailand and Iowa.
And New Mexico, yeah.
So tell us about your issues. You've been sick as a dog.
Yeah.
And we've dragged you out of your deathbed.
Yeah, I went to Bangkok a couple weeks ago for a movie premiere of a 6-minute long movie, and it was terrific for 6 minutes. And unfortunately, somebody, I think, in the airplane going up there breathed on me and shared their virus with me. I have never been as sick.
Really?
Well, I don't know. I don't get sick often because I live a very secluded life. I don't have intimate contact with people at all. And, you know, I have sort of survivor's guilt because COVID did not affect my life at all. At all. I kept my job. I did exactly the same job for 3 years of COVID that I'd done for 5 years before that. I worked in hospitals. I always wore a mask at work. I drive home and sit with my mother and watch TV until bedtime. And the next day, rinse and repeat, go to work, come home, watch TV, go to bed. And neither my mother nor I ever got COVID. I didn't have to give up anything in my life because I don't go to concerts. I worked in the theater. I hardly ever sat in the audience for a show. I would stand backstage and watch a show. So COVID didn't really affect my life at all. And certainly I never got sick with COVID. But whatever this was, man, it kicked me in the nuts and laid me down for, God, it's been 10 days now. Really, my hair hurt, literally. The hair on the top of my head hurt. My tongue hurt. It was like on fire. My tooth that I want to get pulled, the pain went all the way across my jaw. I've had this loose tooth for like 20 years, and sometimes it'll flare up and it'll sting a little bit. But this last week, this tooth, the pain went all the way across the jaw. It was really bad, whatever I had. And I am now, thank God, knock on wood, kind of climbing out from underneath it.
What do you think you had?
I don't know. I took a COVID test, my first COVID test since coming into this country. When I came into this country a year and a half ago, they were still doing the, the ASH hotels. You had to go to a hotel that was all wrapped in plastic. You had to be tested in the van coming from the airport, yada, yada. But since then, I've just lived a normal life here on Turtle Beach and never thought anything about it. But I went out and bought a COVID test, and it came back negative, so I don't suppose it was COVID.
I'm thinking dengue.
Perhaps, yeah, and I'm trying not to breathe on you.
I don't think it's, unless you bite me, I don't think it's transmittable.
You're safe. But yeah, it has been a really rough week for Steve Ross.
I wanted to mention this. By the way, Steve has got 9 books. How many books have you written?
Oh, I've written about 10, but 5 are for sale on Amazon. The
5 are for sale on Amazon.
The rest weren't very good.
There's a link in. Very good.
No, they were on sale for a while on Amazon, but nobody bought them.
That one that you wrote called Raiders of the Lost Ark, that was never going to go anywhere.
Yeah, Peyton Place.
No, it never went anywhere. So they're available on Amazon. There's a link in the description. And also, Steve sells this merchandise. You do these as well. These are a bit special.
These, I'm not selling these. These are to go, I give to my friends. And these are to go around the float that I will be entering in the Turtle Day Parade. Because it rides on the back of a pickup truck, and I have to skirt and decorate the entire truck, all the way around. So these will hang. These are made out of scrap cardboard. They're made out of trash. Everything to do with this project is made out of trash or recycled materials. And school glue and poster paints. Everything is purchased locally. Everything for this project is purchased locally. And this I just made for you, for your...
we got 2, one for
Bonneville
each of
and Coral Cottage,
Coral Cottage. And it's been what I wanted to ask you, because I'm going to hang this outside. I sort of want to make it a little bit more weatherproof.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, what is the coating on it? Is that the polyurethane
stuff?
Yeah,
just polyurethane. What you would put on a wooden deck outside. And again, it's what's sold locally. There's a wonderful art supply store called Julipan in Phuket that will sell you water-based gloss medium, which is a lot easier to work with. It's just but it's incredibly expensive. It's 400 baht for a little bottle this big. Whereas here, the hardware stores will sell you a big tin of polyurethane for like
about
a
the
buck and
same.
a half.
Yeah.
The problem is that they expect you, the polyurethane is manufactured with the expectation that you will coat your deck and use all of your polyurethane. So it is not made to seal those metal cheap-ass cans. And I use a little bit for a project like this and screw the top back on, and when I come back a day later, that thing is solid. All the urethane has solidified in that can.
It's only a part. It's not a part A, part B thing, though.
No.
It's only
not
part
epoxy.
A. I use the same stuff to coat my new timber basin thing in the bathroom.
It's a wonderful tool.
I'm going to put another coat on each, if that's okay.
I think that's probably great. Yeah.
Because we want these to endure.
Yeah.
So you can't buy these when you come to Steve's place, so forget that idea. Yeah. But if you ask really, really nicely, you might.
I'll make you one. What's your business? I'm making them for the little art supply stores and hardware stores in town. The ones that have a sign. Very often in Thailand, people don't bother with putting a sign on their store. And you say, what's the name of this store? Well, it's Ran Kunlek store. Okay, great. Whatever's on the business license, that's not it. But the ones that have signs and have names, I'm going to make them these little tortoise shells and give it to them because I've been buying all my paints there, my glues there, and everything else. So just to make a little bit of goodwill in the community. And I want to have 20 of them done by March 1st. The Turtle Parade is March 1st. And I want to have 20 of these done to hang around the pickup truck. So
there might be a few left over after the parade.
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping to give them all away after the parade, yeah.
So one thing we were going to talk about this week, you brought a book with you, and it's a term I bet a lot of you have heard many, 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 many times, is my penrai. We think it means, it doesn't matter. But it's a little bit more than that.
Well, yeah, it is. And there are several, depending on where you live. Down here in the south, they say, my pri. And up in the north, Bopanyang. Not the north, that would be Isan, Bopanyang. And it all means, don't worry about it. Mai penrai, mañana. It'll happen when it happens. If it happens, it'll happen. And this book that he's mentioning, Mai penrai means never mind, is probably the best piece of creative nonfiction ever written about the city of Bangkok. And the story behind it is tragic. Carol Hollinger, her husband, was the station chief for the CIA in 63, 64. And if you can imagine what the CIA station chief was getting up to in Bangkok in 63, 64, a guy smoked 2 packs a day and eventually smoked himself to death. And he had a lot on his mind, I reckon. But his wife taught at Chula for those 2 years they were stationed in Bangkok. And she wrote this book as a master's thesis in the School of Education at the University of Hawaii. And it got picked up. She went to the Breadloaf Writers Conference. It got picked up by an agent. The first agent who read it picked it up, took it to a publisher. The first publisher who read it published it. And she died of a cerebral aneurysm a week before her book hit the stands. She never saw her book for sale. And she never knew it would become a classic. When I first came here, when people were still reading books, every single English-speaking Falang in this country, every single expat would have read this and A Woman of Bangkok, despite the really horrible cover on this Asia Books edition. Both DK Books and Asia Books published this because her husband, in his grief, sold the rights for pennies, and the family never saw a dime. It's never been out of print. Like I said,
wow.
It's in print by 2 different local publishers, and they never got a dime out of it. But I was reading it. I took it to Bangkok, and I was reading it, and I've been reading it since I came back. And there's a passage in it that resonated with me, and I'm going to bring this up, and I'm going to say what I think. And if you don't like it, fine. You can say so in the comments, but this is what I think, all right?
Can I just, we've got the sun creeping up on us. I'm just going to move back about a foot.
Sure.
Yeah?
All right,
Let's do this. We're doing this live, everybody. Yeah. So
Rob!
Where's the assistant? Who's pulling us back a bit. There you go. All done. I'm going to move this around a little bit. There you go.
All right.
All right, so ready for your passage read, sir?
So she came.
The sermon starts.
Carol Hollinger came with her husband to Bangkok in 63, 64. They had a 7-year-old daughter named Holly, who, in the year 2000, I was lucky enough to interview. I wrote a paper about 3 expatriate memoirs. I was in graduate school learning creative nonfiction, and I wrote a paper called "The Monk, what is it called? The Monk, the Mole, the Matron, and the Maniac." And the mole was Alex McDonald, who was the first head of CIA in Bangkok, and as his cover story, he launched the Bangkok Post, which became hugely successful virtually overnight with the mysterious death of a notable individual. And the army shut down the city. They pulled down all the telegraph wires in Bangkok in 1949, 46. And but because the CIA station chief had a radio on the top of the Bangkok Post building, he was able to file stories abroad. And for 3 days, he was the only guy telling the world what was happening in Bangkok. He was the guy who gave the dead individual the gun that was used to end his life. But he's the only person telling the world what's actually happening here right now, whether or not he was telling the truth. Anyway, that was the mole. The matron was Carol Hollinger, and the maniac was James Eckert. And so I wrote this paper on these 3 expatriate memoirs set in Bangkok. And I got to interview Holly Hollinger about her 2 years in Bangkok. But this is what her mother says about something that's very, very dear to my heart, very close to my heart. On the whole, Holly mourned her carefree American neighborhood. We imported children to play with her, but the sum of it all is that overseas life is miserable for children. There are always a few precious prigs who are interested in archaeology and the native dance, but the bulk of children under 12 in the Far East loathe it. Not even steak and ice cream on order can compensate for the loss of noise, squabbles, tears, laughter, intrigue, chaos, and sheer animal spirits that go into a recipe for a neighborhood block in America. Amen, sister. Listen, if you're traveling with your little children, you're selfish and you're cruel, and they will not thank you for that when they grow up. There, say, comment below.
So, I have to wear that. So, it's
That's
interesting.
Right. It's not my comment section.
This reflects your particular experience.
Yeah.
You yearned for the bicycle down the back blocks of your neighborhood in America.
I was in 7 schools by the 7th grade, and that sucked. Man, don't drag your kids around the world, man. Don't do it. They want to be home in Boy Scouts. They want to be in Little League. They want to have boyfriends and girlfriends. They want to ride their bicycle to the city park pool. They don't want to be visiting temples in Southeast Asia.
But there are going to be some kids who are going to make friends in countries beyond where they might have been born or brought up. And they're going to make friends there, and they're going to ride the bicycle down the block. And they'll get to see temples as well. Some kids would thrive in this sort of situation.
Well, as she says, there's a few precious prigs who are into the native dance. But no, listen, if they're lucky, they'll get to recreate a small slice of life back home. They can ride their bicycles in the neighborhood. They will make friends in the neighborhood. But if you hadn't transplanted them, they wouldn't have had to do all that. They would have had friends. They would have had their bicycle back home. No, there's no benefit to a small child to traveling around the world. These yachts that float up on Phuket, where a man and a woman are living a hippie lifestyle and homeschooling their 3 kids on this yacht, and they spend a year in Malacca, and they spend a year in Singapore, and they spend a year in Thailand. That sucks, man. That's terrible for those kids. They're never going to adjust. They're never going to have friends.
Well, okay, so here's the challenge. If you either were a parent who dragged your kids around the world, or if you were one of those kids that was dragged around the world and have survived, a survivor like Steve, tell us what you thought. Was it a good experience or a bad experience? But obviously, Carol Hollinger didn't think it was a good life.
No, and she was right.
That is a fly that's flying right in front of the lens.
Yeah.
Very, very selectively. This was something I was going to ask you because of something I've noted. And one thing I've noted the absence of here in Turtle Beach is, do you know what I'm going to say?
Mosquitoes.
Mosquitoes.
Yeah.
Where the hell are
Yeah,
the mosquitoes?
I have not a clue. Every now and then.
As if you're fast enough.
Yeah.
Mr. Miyake?
Give me my chopsticks. Yes. Douche. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why that is, but I have noticed every now and then I'll hear one whining around the bedroom, maybe once every week or 2 weeks. But otherwise, I haven't lit a mosquito coil in like a year. I haven't used that wand. Boy, when I lived up on behind the Lotus up on the hill, man, I'd sit there and watch TV and just wave that wand around. Zap, 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 zap. Here, no. I don't know.
Sorry, what was the sound it made?
Zap, 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 zap. I don't know if it's the salt water here, the salt air, or what.
The sea breeze would be blowing the mosquitoes inland?
I don't know.
So,
I have no idea.
Is it year-round that there's no mosquitoes, or just...
Yes. In my experience, having been here now, well, on the beach since Christmas, so not quite a year, 10 months on the beach, in this town about a year and a half. And like I said, the first 6 months up on the hill, plenty of mosquitoes, Thailand-style mosquitoes, and burning a coil, burning a green coil.
And this is mosquito, by the way.
Yeah, that's how
This is
big
the
they
size
are.
of them.
Yeah. But no, since moving down here, I really, I don't see them. I did when I first started eating at Pisau.
Yeah.
She would put a coil under the table. But that was just the first few weeks I was here, and then she stopped, and I haven't noticed any mosquitoes there since then. But when I first came, about Christmas time, last year, about Christmas time, Pisau would have to light a mosquito coil down there under the table. But yeah, it's another wonderful thing about Turtle Beach. We just don't suffer from mosquitoes.
Back in my home in Phuket, we used to get a lot of mosquitoes. So we had a lot of the wires and the coils, and every night before going to the bed, we'd close the door. So it was a bit of a war against the mosquitoes because dengue. But yeah, we're very, very lucky down here. We don't seem to get many mosquitoes apart from everything else that is good about living in this town.
Yeah, it's a blessing.
I've been here for 3 weeks, and I think I might stay at least another one.
Yeah, well, talk to the landlord. I don't know if he's got this place booked out. There may be other people coming in. It's a B&B, so there may be maybe guests have it booked. So I don't know how long you can stay.
What's today, Sunday? Wednesday, the next guests come. So we've had 4 lots of guests come through so far. The last ones didn't wash the dishes. So
that's your damage deposit.
Yeah. Okay, so why don't we do, as we've done a few times, with the popular and much discussed Very Thai book. We've both got our copy, and you can buy this at any good bookstore in Thailand.
Yes.
Very popular
Philip
book.
Cornwell Smith, an amazing act of scholarship.
And most of them come with the pictures still in the book. This one is a bit lighter than most editions because Steve's cut all the pictures out.
And we don't, I promise, we're not going to read from this book. But we every now and then we dip into it to find a topic, something to talk about.
Which catches us out because this is completely random, and usually we end up with something we know nothing about.
Yeah.
We get it all wrong, and you tell us that we got it wrong.
And we're holding a book with 3 or 4 pages on that particular subject, whatever it is, and between us, the two of us cannot come up with a fact about that subject. And do you think we would read from the book? No. All right, you ready?
Here we go. This is random. You've had a slice of that page.
All right. Royal portraits. Royal portraits. This is something very interesting to me. I had mentioned last time we talked, I think, that Maddie from Patty had taken me to a Nana Plaza go-go bar. And he had this big, enormous wallet of 20s. And I'll tell you what, you want to get attention in a go-go bar, sit there and count about 3,000 baht in 20s. Just sit there and count. All movement in the bar ceases. All noise ceases. Everybody stares at you. Anyway, Matty took these 20s. He gave me half of them, and he said, "Here, stick these in the girls' panties." And I thought, well, there's a portrait of a king on that bill. That does not seem. That does not seem, because you know, somebody drops a coin in the 7-Eleven,
Yes.
and they'll wire it when they pick it up. My mother used to, and I think she got this from her parents. If she dropped a book, she was a reading specialist for the public schools. If she dropped a book, she'd kiss it when she picked it back up, because books are holy, books are sacred in our family. So is obviously the image of royalty. But in that instance, in that go-go bar, the women seemed perfectly okay with having this particular royal portrait shoved into their sweaty undies. And Maddie had a great time, and I had fun doing it too. So there you go. But they are everywhere. The royal portraits are everywhere. There was a conversation in this country when they launched the post office, because there had to be an image of the king on every stamp. Well, that meant you can't cancel a stamp. You can't, right? Cancel the stamp. So they had to have dispensation from the palace in order to launch the post office and cancel stamps.
I noticed that if you go into most homes in Thailand, they've all got a portrait
Yes,
of...
I do.
Usually of His Majesty the King and the Queen. It might be the current king. It might also be the old king and queen.
Mm-hmm.
And often you will find a portrait of Rama V, King Chulalongkorn,
Right, yeah.
who is sort of, he's a very popular king.
Yeah, he was the boy. The boy in The King and I is Rama V. Rama IV is his father. And Rama 9 is the previous, and Rama 10 is the current. And you will see very often now simply a black number 9. People are wearing that on shirts and hats and bandanas, and they'll have it mounted, simply the number 9, in a business or a home. And as far as I know, that is not mandated. That is something people do out of a genuine respect for their royal family. I saw a guy, 35 years ago in Kata Beach. This tourist got the crap kicked out of him because he got up on the bar, and he had bought drinks for the house, and everybody loved him. All the girls were drinking free, and there were two tuk-tuk drivers sitting at this bar. It was an open-air bar in Kata Beach. And this big, dumb, fat, white tourist gets up on the bar, and he's doing sort of a Thai Muang. He's dancing up and down the bar to some traditional Luktung music. And he gets to the end of the bar, and without looking, he went whack, and his hand hit the royal portrait.
No.
And these two taxi drivers took him down at the knees onto the ground. They pulled off his flip-flops, and they were beating him in the face with his own shoes because he had accidentally hit the royal portrait. So they're very, very serious about it, or historically, traditionally, they have been very serious about it.
By the way, if that does happen to you in the future, if you happen to flick a portrait of the royal family or His Majesty the King, get your two hands together very, very quickly, bring them up, and say sorry. Yes. So,
and then buy drinks for the house.
Yeah.
And then run. Run. Yeah. Run. But Rama V, Chulalongkorn, he was the one who modernized Thailand, who brought them into the Industrial Revolution, and he's also the one who built the little house down by the Chao Phraya River and lived like a peasant periodically.
And he introduced fork and spoon. Yeah. Before then, the Thais were using chopsticks.
Well, and fingers.
And fingers. Yeah. Which some countries like Nepal, Burma,
South Asia, sure,
they still use the fingers. Why not? So wash your hands first, though.
Yeah.
And
after.
The reason that he didn't introduce knife and fork is apparently he was going to introduce the knife and fork as Europeans were using at the time, but one of his advisors said, "Your Majesty, knife with the peasant, not a good idea. So they decided to use the fork and spoon instead.
If I may make an alternate proposal, there is never
Could be apocryphal.
Could be apocryphal because all cutting of meat is done in the kitchen. There's no cutting at the table. Everything's a stew, right? Everything's a soup or a stew. It comes to the table in bite-sized chunks. That's how you feed a family of 12 with a single chicken.
One may have led to the other.
No. All cutting is done in the kitchen, so there's never a knife on the table.
There's probably a chapter about it in Very Thai.
Probably, yeah, probably.
So
I'll look it up. I'll look it up for next time.
And the other thing that you'll see portraits used a lot is at funerals. People will carry portraits of the person who has died, and they'll be marching along with holding that portrait.
Right.
So that's
Parades. It's a great honor to be the member of faculty chosen to carry one of the royal portraits in a Thai parade.
Right, so let's try another chapter. Random topics in Very Thai, available at all good bookstores. You're being as random as you can.
We did ghost stories last time.
Okay, let me do one.
Oh, do one.
Just so people don't think that.
Rock on, brother man.
You're. I'm going to go near.
I'm a shill.
I'm going to go near the front randomly. Here we go. A nation full of sweetness.
Oh, rice sweets.
And it's headlined Sugar. Can you see that? I'll just read the first paragraph. Thais seem disposed towards sweetness in words, personality, sentiment, colours, and crucially, food. Per capita, sugar intake is about the highest in the world.
Yes.
So I wouldn't be surprised. Perhaps that languid ability to doze in any position is due not only to the heat, work or digesting sticky rice, but also the blood sugar collapse.
Insulin, yeah.
So sugar, it's hard to have any Thai meal without sugar in it.
That's right.
There's MSG, there's salt, there's sugar, there's every single possible tantalizer for your tongue.
And there's fat Thai people now. How about that?
But if we go
30
back,
years ago, no.
Well, I was going to say 30 years ago, didn't they have sugar?
I'm sure they did, but people weren't eating it in the quantities they're eating now.
Along with bread and other things.
Soda pop. And milk products. A lot of milk products now. UHT milk has changed the diet here tremendously.
I would dare anybody, yourself included, to go into a 7-Eleven and buy any food stuff that doesn't have sugar in it. I get so... I told you, the Triffids are attacking. I buy a 6-pack of soda, I don't know, every couple of days. That doesn't have sugar in it. But, beyond that, the bananas wrapped in plastic, of course, they're full of sugar, but it's not added
sucrose,
sugar.
Yeah.
But yogurt, try and get a yogurt without sugar at a 7-Eleven. Impossible.
I have never eaten anything out of a 7-Eleven. I go to 7-Eleven to pay my phone bill and my water bill and my electric bill. I have never purchased anything else that I can think of. I tried to find a ballpoint pen in Patong. I went to every 7-Eleven in Baton looking for a ballpoint pen, and nobody sells pens. They sell paper clips, they sell staplers, they sell glue.
Yep.
No paper, no pens.
That's what the bananas are for writing. Didn't you know that?
No.
There's a chapter about it in the book.
About writing with bananas. Yeah.
What was I going to say?
Scrimshaw with
I
bananas.
did a series of programs. It was a series of 5, and we got these chefs at all the fancy hotels in Phuket, all the top chefs, and we said, here is 500 baht. You got 5 minutes in 7-Eleven. Buy anything you can. Then you've got to cook a 3-course meal with it. And that was the challenge. And the stuff that they came up with was brilliant. Very, very creative.
Awesome.
Because 7-Eleven is not
chefs.
necessarily known for sort of fine ingredients.
No.
But they came up with some brilliant stuff. I'll send you links to the programs. Nobody else wanted to watch it, so you might.
Yeah, I really have no use for 7-Eleven except, like I said, to pay. I pay my internet, I pay my phone, electric, and water. I think those 4 are the only reason. And I used to buy cigarettes. I haven't had a cigarette in, God,
you know
7,
you can
8
pay
days.
your electricity bill by pointing your phone at your bill.
No, I can't. I don't have any apps on my phone.
your bank? Oh, you don't
No.
have banking here.
Well, I do, but I don't have any apps. So I just go in the bank.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to
No.
drag you kicking and screaming into the 21st century.
Yeah. I
one day.
I use it to make videos. I don't talk to anybody on the phone. I don't text anybody. I don't use the phone for anything except making videos, and I barely do that.
Somebody in this morning's live program said, "Oh, Steve sounded he was pretty down on people dropping in, seeing him, watching his last video." But I said,
misunderstood.
"Look, Steve is very happy to receive guests, to give them an audience."
Ha! Well, no, I'm very happy to talk to people and hear their stories.
But I said to people, just be respectful of Steve's time.
Yeah.
And make sure you bring expensive gifts.
Yeah,
then
both.
there won't be any
Yes to
problem
both.
at all.
Yeah, it's the same rules. Look, you wouldn't drop in on somebody in Las Cruces, New Mexico, and sit there for 4 hours in his living room, and somebody you've never met before.
This is not
and
directed
shoot
at
the
anybody,
breeze.
by the way.
Yeah, it is. You want to come for half an hour. Listen, if you've got really interesting stories, stay for an hour, but not 4 hours. All right, and people, because I love this place, and I love the fact that people want to come visit here, and people come and they stay 3 days, 4 days, 5 days. Great. But you don't have to come to my house every single day for those 3 days, 4 days, 5 days. Come and meet me and let's talk a little bit and then have a great time in Turtle Beach. But I'm not going to babysit, all right? And I don't feel like you need to come and I don't know, make Steve happy or anything. You don't need to come and
just bring gifts.
Gifts are great, and people have been bringing me coffee and broccoli and lighters and all kinds
and cherry
of
ripes
and stickers and all kinds and cherry ripes.
Took
and all
me a
kinds
week to get them off, Steve. How many did you eat?
The
package
ate
was
half
open.
of one while I was sick, and that was it. But no, honest to God, the invitation is there. Come, the door is always open. It's an art studio.
Yes,
I
it
would
is.
love to see this beach become an artist colony. I think that we could, have people come, and if you're a painter, come paint a sunset. If you're a writer, come write a novelette. If you're a composer, come compose a piece of music. And then in the evening, we sit around and we show each other our artwork.
Oh, I know what you were going to say there.
And, that's great. I think this could be a thriving arts community. It's a perfect built place in that it's very, very cheap, so artists can afford it here. But, at some point, you got to leave. At some point, Steve needs to take a shower and go to bed. So,
And I do have to say that Steve is a very, very competent tour guide. Because we had some guests here during the week, and the little girls wanted to see a toidle. And so I was going to send them up to the Navy place. But apparently, I didn't know this, but there's a perfectly good, rather surprising place just up the road.
Yeah, we have our own turtle hatchery. Yeah, Top Lamoo is the Navy base just north of us here. And they have a turtle hatchery, which is a big tourist trap. And they have a golf course, which is a big tourist trap.
Oh, really? There's 2 good golf courses.
Oh,
around.
yeah.
Oh,
Top
wow.
Lamoo. Yeah. And there's a hotel in Kokloy called the Erewhon, which is built specifically for golf tours.
Okay.
And I don't know if they've ever had a guest because they opened right before COVID, as far as I know. But the Erewhon Hotel in Kokloy is built specifically for people who come to, they'll golf Aquella one day, they'll golf Top Lamoo the next day, and then there's something on the other side of Panga. There's a third. They come up here for 3 days and golf 3 courses in 3 days.
Or you could stay at Bonneville and go to the one
Yeah.
500 metres away, by the way.
Yeah, the Aquella. It's right
Aquella.
here. Yeah.
Which I haven't been in yet.
Well, there ain't much there. I mean, unless
Like a
you
golf
you
course.
want to golf. Yeah, they've got a
restaurant?
Yes, I ate a 900 baht hamburger in that restaurant when I first came.
Right.
It is the other source of Farang food on Turtle Beach. There is the Tipalele coffee shop, which will do a hamburger for about 150 baht, and it's not bad. It's all right. And then the Aquella does the same hamburger and fries for 900 baht. But basically, it's a bunch of $30 million condos with a golf course stuck onto it. But people have said, Art McGrath says he plays there all the time. People have said they play that course and they like it very much. So there you go.
So I didn't know about the one. I passed it many times. There's a great big huge building with a concrete toidle atop. And it used to be a bit of a tourist attraction, but now it's just this huge facility with lots of baby and bigger turtles.
Yeah.
But no
It's
one
falling
there.
apart. It's falling apart. They got
such
no
a
money.
shame.
They got no money to keep it up.
If you feel like you'd like to donate, oh no, but I won't go down that track. People, because the money's going to go. I don't know who the money would go to.
Yeah, that's always who knows. But yeah, you go in there, and there are graduate students. They raise corals, they raise shellfish, they raise aquarium fish, and they do raise turtles in there. And you can go and you can see the turtles. You just walk in and
one turtle was this big.
yeah,
It was a big turtle.
big damn turtle. Yeah. Yeah, they get them. They get them big. The fishermen, they'll get caught in nets, and the fishermen will bring them in to get
Rehabilitated.
nursed back to health. Yeah.
So thank you very much for acting as tour guide.
Oh, you're very welcome.
We
I
might
enjoyed
put
that.
you on permanent staff.
Sure, I enjoyed that.
Can you make a bed?
Yes, not that I ever do.
Okay.
I was raised by my mother without a man in the house. I sew buttons on
Wow.
shirts. I vacuum. I wash dishes. I cook. I clean.
I did 7 years of boarding school, so boy.
So you never washed a dish in your life?
Oh no, we had to wash the dishes.
Oh.
We had to make our own bed. If you didn't, well, cold shower, and it got very cold there. It was very Dickensian, the boarding school I went to. Had bars on the windows and everything. But you used to have to say grace before the meal, and you'd have a prefect or a teacher sitting at the head of the table, and we used to have to wait till they started, and then had to wait till they finished the first course before you could go and get seconds. It was all very... If I look back at it, it was very regimented, which I think is one reason I've become so anal retentive.
That's the reason.
But we used to have to wash the dishes, of course. There were all these... There was one job which was cleaning out the sewer once a month. That was a punishment.
Oh, you cleaned out the sewer. Your parents were paying for this education, and they were making you clean the sewer.
No, it's the where all the slops from the kitchen goes, and we had to clean it out. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe sewer was the
Grease
wrong
trap,
word.
a
Grease
grease
trap.
trap.
We had to clean that out once a month.
Yeah.
And what other things? There was all sorts of other jobs, but yeah, we had to do the dishes. We used to have on Friday nights, because once you'd been at boarding school for a week, you knew what you were going to be eating for every week for the rest of your time there, because it was the same food, the same menu every week. It didn't get changed up. Or these days they'd sort of have brie on rocket on Tuesdays, and then sort of Himalayan yak with something juice. I don't know what the menu's like these days, but we used to have on Friday nights chicken supreme. And let me assure you that no chicken had ever been anywhere near a packet of this slop we used to have to eat. It was this stuff you bought in it was dry, and you add water and you heat it up, and on a plate.
Reconstituted. They call that shit on a shingle.
It was grey, and it had little bits of peas and carrots in it.
Sure.
And otherwise it looked...
Oh, chicken a la king, I think that is. Chicken
No, we
a la
called it
king.
chicken supreme. There's nothing supreme about it, and some people loved it. I loathed it. I hated Friday nights.
Can I? I'll tell you my one boarding school story. All right.
You went to boarding school?
No, but I worked for 3 years writing advertising and marketing for a company called Staymates, which did higher education marketing. It was our job to sell college degrees to high school seniors. And it was a great job. Once a month, I would spend a week on a different college campus in the United States and interview everybody from the newest freshman to the provost to the dean. And then I would produce websites, billboards, view books, brochures, everything, in order to sell the very expensive private church-affiliated liberal arts education, which is a dying animal in the United States. Very young people don't want to go to a church school anymore. They don't want to get a liberal arts degree anymore.
Mind you, mine was the Church of England school. So we used to go to church every Sunday as well.
Chapel.
Didn't work on me.
So one of our clients, we got a client called the Kiskimenitis School in outside of Pittsburgh. It is one of only 5 all-male, all-boarding schools left in the United States.
Wow.
And most of the students are international. Most of the students are kids from Saudi Arabia, kids from Africa, wherever. If your family has money, you send them to America to go to school. And these kids come in kindergarten and stay until they graduate from university, and then they go home to Saudi Arabia or wherever, and they're expected, I suppose, to take over at least the family business, if not the palace and the government. But at any rate, so there were 300 boys on this campus, beautiful, beautiful campus out in the mountains of Pennsylvania, all in uniform, ties, jackets, crest on the pocket, regimented haircut, and 300 boys from kindergarten through senior and high school. Now, faculty, children of faculty got to go to this school for free if they wanted to. There was one teenage girl, the daughter of faculty, attending this school. One teenage girl. And because she was a girl, she didn't have to wear a uniform. She could wear anything she wanted.
Oh, no.
So after lunch, the boys got to go outside the dining hall. Was a big sort of lobby, one wall of which was mailboxes, and the boys got to go open their mailboxes and look for mail after lunch. Now, I was working there in 2000, so nobody was really carrying a phone yet. None of these boys was carrying a phone. So we go out after lunch. We have lunch with the headmaster, and we go out with all the boys, and they're milling and they're pushing and they're shoving. They're boys. They're 300 boys, kindergarten to 18 years old.
And one girl.
And it's a madhouse. Well, all of a sudden, silence, absolute stillness, silence. And this girl comes walking like a queen through this mass of humanity, and these boys are tripping over their feet, getting out of her way, right?
In slow motion.
Right, and she's dressed in this cute little perky halter top, and she's got this little skirt on that stops just below her pubes, right? She's about 16, 15, 16, and man, you could smell the testosterone. You heard all around you, swang, swang, swang. 300 boys just suddenly non-compy mentis, absolutely riveted by this girl. And she's got this big grin on her face.
Of course she has.
And she just walked through. She gets her mail at home. She doesn't have a mailbox. And she just walks through in absolute dead silence. And she goes out the door at the other end. And then boom, pandemonium again. And this happens every day. That's the story. Thank you for listening.
So I wonder what happened to her.
I don't know, but I'll bet she's got stories to tell.
Oh,
I'll bet she's got some
she
stories
has.
to tell. I mean, that girl, any one of those 300 young men would have jumped off a bridge for her. She's the only girl they ever see.
Yeah.
Right? There's no Pornhub.
For 10 years.
Yeah, there's no Pornhub. There's no Playboy magazine under the mattress because the prefect comes through and searches your room, right? The only female they see is this girl who's their age, and she's dressed like a harlot, and they see her every day, right? So all of their fantasies, all 300 boys' fantasies, revolve around this single individual.
There's a movie in that.
Oh, yeah.
Surely.
I'm sure she'll write a memoir.
Yeah.
I'm sure she'll write a memoir.
And how is your mother, by the way?
Oh, aren't you kind? Thank you. My mother's doing very well, as far as I know.
I was going to suggesting your mother was the young girl walking through
No. She was already quite aged at that point. But yeah, as far as I know, she's doing very well.
How old is she now?
She's 90.
Wow.
89 or 90. 89. Going to be 90 in December. She's doing amateur theatricals. They're doing Reader's Theater. And so she gets to sit in her rascal and do Reader's Theater. And she volunteers at the soup kitchen. Our family, we all volunteer in soup kitchens from time to time. I wash dishes every Sunday for 4 years in a soup kitchen. And Mom is doing food prep now once a week at the soup kitchen and serving at table at the soup kitchen. And yeah, she keeps herself busy, and she's got friends and things, and yeah.
Well, Steve, the moral of the story there, as we sort of keep on harping about, is keep busy and keep friends around you.
Yeah.
That's the best thing you can do. If you're going to retire in Thailand, forget about the visas, forget about the rentals. I mean, all that stuff will take care of itself.
Yeah.
Have something to do, keep busy, have friends.
Something other than drinking, and
Yes.
don't think those sad sacks, those pit stains in the bar are your friends. They're not. They're guys you drink with. That's all they are. They're not friends. If you need a kidney, they're not going to give you a kidney.
Speaking of which, you're off to hospital in a couple of weeks. Your procedure was interrupted.
God willing. Yeah. I got sick. I'm supposed to be
recovering at the moment.
from a hernia repair, a mesh hernia repair. I got too sick and I canceled it, and now they're going to do it on November 6th, which will be my 66th birthday. I will go in for surgery on my 66th birthday in Phang province, and hopefully, get patched up, and then I can get back on the bicycle. I haven't been on the bicycle in a month.
No.
And I very much miss it. But it was strongly recommended that I not get back on the bicycle until this is repaired and healed. So yeah, that's my future. In a couple weeks, I'll go and get the hernia repair I've been talking about for a month. It will finally be done.
You've milked it. You really
I have. Oh, give me sympathy, give me attention.
This tree, we're going to cut this down. It is making such a mess.
Aw, but it's a nice tree.
Would you think so?
Yeah.
It's not when it ends up on the ground here. I was going to also, I would be remiss of me if I didn't ask a question that I do get asked very often, and I'm asking it with trepidation. How's the smoking going?
Oh, I haven't had a cigarette since I got sick, since I came back from Bangkok.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
So good news.
And let's see. I'm going to at least, on the off chance they have to intubate me. It's an open procedure, so they will intubate me.
Intubate. Could you?
Put a tube, help you put a ventilator.
Right.
Put a curved plastic tube down your throat just to keep your
under
airway.
anesthetic.
So you don't swallow your tongue and suffocate yourself. And typically you don't want to be inflamed doing that. So I'm going to stay off cigarettes at least until the operation. Now, the first 5 or 6 days, my eustachian tube didn't plug up. And I thought, well, that's the problem. It's the smoking. That's what makes the eustachian tube plug up. But as you can tell, it has plugged up recently. So that is not the solution, the be-all, end-all.
So today's program has been brought to you by the yellow duck, also known as the very large mosquito, Steve's eustachian tube, the paper mache turtle,
Bonneville.
The Bonneville Beach House in Thai Muang, and Dusty the cat, who's been our audience. And she's showing great enthusiasm at the entire conversation.
Yeah, I hope you're more interested than she is. Yeah.
It's a he. I only found out last
Sorry,
week.
dude. Sorry. Yeah, you choose your pronouns, babe.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, by the way, we look forward to reading your comments. Steve usually gets quite enthusiastic, especially if you have a slash at him. So we look forward to that. And you got your latest video out on Friday, as you do every week. We've got a link to your Amazon. We've got a link to your merch. What else have I got to tell people about? Please subscribe to the channel. Hope you're feeling better next week.
Thank you.
And we look forward to seeing you next week. And we'll see you, obviously, sometime during the week. Well, what else are we going to talk about?
Well, I did go to our local orphanage today, but we'll talk about that next week.
We'll go. Okay, 1 minute. Tell us about the orphanage.
Well,
and we can expand on it next week.
So, we here in Thai Muang, there's never been a tsunami. And there never will be a tsunami. But Khao got hammered north of us, Phuket got hammered south of us, so a lot of the injured were brought to this hospital. Now, there were working in Khao and Phuket a lot of people from Isan who were killed, and their children were left behind. And these children were too young to be able to say, my name is X, I come from this village in Isan, my
Right.
granny's name is X. They just suddenly had a bunch of Lao-speaking 3-year-olds on their hands. So a local group, an engineer actually from Bangkok came down here, and he established on the highway going north toward Khao Lak, he established a little orphanage for these Isan kids because they couldn't figure out how to repatriate them. They couldn't figure out how to get them home. And he got some money from donations, and there's actually a plinth. There's a big piece of wrought iron sculpture on a cement plinth there dedicated to an American guy who died in the tsunami in Khao Lak, and his family donated a whack of money to establish this little orphanage for these like 20, 25 Isan kids. And I thought, well, you know, I've known it's there since I came here. They used to have a coffee shop, and you used to be able to go in and buy coffee and support the project.
They'll be in their 20s by now.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, I'm wondering who's there. What orphans are there now?
Yeah.
And I went there today, and there were a bunch of kids and a bunch of Muslim women. There's a stream that goes behind this place, and they grow crops. They have handcrafts. They have things like that. They have dormitories and classrooms. But all the kids, there were like 10 or 11 kids playing in this stream out back, and these Muslim women serving a meal. And I thought, well, I don't want to go bother them, but that was the question I wanted to ask. Who are these kids? And I've looked online for this American guy to find out how did his family get connected with this to give a bunch of money and get a big 20-foot tall wrought iron sculpture dedicated to this guy. But there's nothing. He's off the grid. He doesn't pop up. He died in the tsunami, and this is his name. He's from the U.S., and that's all we know about him. But anyway, I thought that was a place we could shoot from.
Okay.
But there was nobody I could talk to because they were all down by the creek.
All right. Well, we'll try and find out more about that, because the more time you spend here, the more little rocks that you lift up, and there's something fascinating underneath. I'm at the very early stage of discovering things around here. You're a bit more advanced. Don't forget Steve's November the 6th birthday as well.
I wear 44 long. I like blue.
Yes. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Tim. I appreciate this very much. I like this. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us, and hopefully you've had a bit of fun. We have, and we'll see you next time.
I love you guys. Thank you very much.